Good evening, 49er faithful. The Beards are back, baby. It is about damn time. Here we are back again. It is Thursday night, April 6th, 6 o'clock on the West Coast, at 8 o'clock out there where Randon is in Texas. And we are looking at new footage of 49ers quarterbacks today. It's one freaking clip, Randon, and all of 49ers Twitter has lost their minds. I'm absolutely here for it. Welcome to the show. Randon, how are you doing this evening?
I'm 6 to midnight, just like every other Niners fan, man. Just one clip gets you hard, man. Gets you ready to go. I love it.
Yes, it has thrown everyone into a tizzy. There's a lot of optimism. You know I'm here for the optimism, man. If it's the type of clip that spins people into that negative space, the negativity where they're talking shit, that's the kind of stuff that I don't want to deal with. This, where it's like, oh, one clip and we're all going to cling to this level of hope that's potentially a little bit more than we should. I'm here for that. I am absolutely here for that because I was pretty impressed. So we're going to talk about it in just a moment. But I enjoy when people spin it to we're going to win it all this year. Oh, we've got 17 starting level quarterbacks. This is fantastic.
I know, man. Lance throwing it to air. Everybody's, crowning him the next Mahomes because he's practicing with Mahomes. Darnold's getting all the pub from everybody.
Wait. Are you saying that simply by practicing with Mahomes doesn't make you Mahomes? Because that was my assumption, was like, hey, he's spending time with Patrick, so next year he's going to look a lot more like Patrick.
This is football by osmosis. That's what we're talking about here, and I'm all for it.
Football by osmosis. I'll take it. We got to give a shout out to those that were here in the chat. People are enthused. When we go away for a week, people are like, what's wrong? What's going on? And honestly, I mean, I appreciate that. I love the fact that people follow up. I love the fact that people reach out and email. And I love the fact that people are in here in the chat talking trash already. Eric Schultz was in here saying, hey, man, it's time to move on from Purdy because it is the Trey Lance show. Kid Icarus comes in to dispute that wholeheartedly and say you may not even be a fan at this point. Luke Luna kicking it off for the sneakerhead community. He is in here. Luke Luna, it is fantastic to see you. I hope you are laying down some ink right now, tattooing it up. We will talk soon. NorCal Air Gunner coming in to celebrate the Beards being back. Chris Royale in the house. I'm telling you, the sneakerheads are here. Dustin Kohler, our resident Lions fan, in the house. Raphael 5629ers coming in. Sneakerhead to say good evening, Rob, Randon, Sneakerheads, and everyone. CJ Gray in the house. CJ, I just missed your last comment on our last show by a half a beat from putting it on there. I am glad you're here. It has been some time, and I am thrilled to see you in the comments, man. I feel like between you and me, CJ, I'm just recovering from Philly. Like right now, just recovering from that. CJ knows what I'm talking about. He was there in Philly, and it was painful. Beast Mode Gaming saying hello. I3, the I3 is alive. Randall Riley in the building. Beast Mode Gaming, and we've got Luke Walsh. Man, it is a crowded waiting room. All In is here saying, Rob, we need more shows, bro. That's a fact. There will be more shows as we get into the heart of the offseason. I appreciate everybody being here. Alan Elizer, Sneakerhead, here on the channel, coming in as well, asking us how it's going. Are we doing a call-in show? Yes, I will be trying to get that call-in show. I've been trying to for weeks. I promise you I will have that call-in show going. We've got the Hicks family experience, Steeler Nation in the house. We are representing the Lions, the Steelers, and of course the Niners in perpetuity here in perpetuity. Thomas Luttrell in the building. Corey Davis is here. Do me that favor, everyone that is here, hit that like button. You know it amplifies our signal. Down below in the description are all of the ways you can follow Randon and Hockey Royalty, the other podcast that he contributes on. Man, that was a lot of names to go through right there, Randon.
I know it was. And you know what? I want to say one thing because, it's you and I are both people. We're both made of flesh.
We are indeed people
and blood. And sometimes during the off season, we just need some time off.
That's
true.
Need
some breaks because you know what we're ready to do, Rob? You and I.
What's that?
Soon as the draft happens, soon as camp starts, we're every week, baby. We're there every week. Rain, snow, sleet, sickness, and health. I feel like the USPS over here because we're cranking out shows every week. So sometimes during the off season, if schedules don't match up, or I was selling like 40 cars this last month. It just, we gotta have
slanging
a little bit. I gotta sling that money so that way I have a little stash. So that way Rob and I can go see some shows and give you.
That's right.
Shows.
We gotta earn that money to go to games next year.
I know. But I appreciate you, everybody in the chat, everybody that followed Rob. I mean, Rob's got a pretty hardcore fan base. They're ready to cut and stab everybody who doesn't like Rob. I love it out there. But you guys miss us. We miss you. Appreciate the following. Let's go.
That's a fact. All right, let us talk about Trey Lance. People want to. Eric Schultz coming back in. Trey Lance will take over the starting role, and there will be no going back from him, not after training with Patrick Mahomes. This is back to the learning through osmosis. He is training with Patrick Mahomes. Clearly, he will pick up all of the traits that Patrick Mahomes possesses, and he will be a clone by the time we get into camp. Obviously, I'm talking a little tongue-in-cheek there, but I am excited that he's training with Mahomes. I do think that confidence and attitude matter, and Mahomes has that flowing through his veins, no doubt, so that can't help but rub off on him. But here we are, talking about Lance right off of the bat. Obviously, it's one clip. It is one throw, and yet from that, we are getting side-by-sides of that throw versus a throw that was captured during training camp. We're breaking down the angle of the arm, the quickness of the release from a single throw. So having seen that single throw, what was your take on it, Randon?
Good. He's practicing. Like that's pretty much it. And it makes me excited. To be honest, though, it does really makes me excited because this is what we live off of in the offseason, right?
Yes.
Like there's some guys that post their stuff. There's some guys that don't. Debo's posting all his stuff, getting ready. Ayuk we talked about that a couple pods ago. He's a little tongue in cheek with, hey, I'm the fourth option. I'm at over 1,000 yards. Everybody wants to pump up their value. Do you think for a second that Trey Lance doesn't want to start? He wants to start. So
absolutely.
And it's not like Shanahan's watching these things. It's just the flow of the fan base going on. Hey, he's doing these things. I think it's a big deal. And the throw, beautiful throw. Tight spiral, beautiful good mechanics, beautiful throw. Now, hey, if I threw 400 passes, do you think you could clip one good throw for me? Probably. But I'm just saying from a standpoint of, hey, Niners fan base needed a nugget to chew on. They've been chewing all day long on this beef jerky, and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a cow chewing on cud. I mean, this is like we are getting a lot of mileage out of this one clip. And I will say, I have looked at the clip over and over and over again. I have watched the clip of Trey Lance now practicing with Patrick Mahomes versus the clip that David Lombardi captured at a relatively similar angle during training camp. And I will say, there are opinions abounding on Twitter. There are some who look at that very same comparison of the side-by-side throwing motions and say, no, I really don't see a change in between the two. And I wouldn't expect it either because Lance is recovering from obviously a very detrimental injury, right? And so he's focused on his lower body. I will say that was not my stance. In looking at them side by side, I do notice the difference in throwing motion. I do see a more upright arm, right? The angle of the arm much higher, the ball placement higher, the motion itself slightly shortened. And it is, I will admit that it is only one throw. But if I'm comparing that one throw captured on film with the other throw that was captured on film side by side, I see a notable difference.
I mean, again, you could capture 2 frames of meat and a hot dog and hamburger and you put them side by side and say they're different meals. I'm just saying, like you're looking at this throw here. And what I will say, I'll be honest here. When I first saw the throw, just the throw by itself with Lance, the new throw, I did say, hey, his mechanics look better. That looked sharp. That looked really good. And then when you put them side by side, I'm like, okay, they're not that much different. So like it downplayed what my original thought was. And maybe that was where my heart is. Maybe that's where my mind is. Or maybe that's where my eyes are. So yeah, there is visible improvement there in that one clip by clip. But when you saw them side by side, I was like, okay, it's not that much different, right? But like, I don't know. I think it was like when I saw it, Trey Lance throwing the football, I'm like, yes, give me some Niner stuff. Like that's kind of where I felt it needed to be.
Right.
I don't know, man. I'm you know me, I'm all for Lance. Right now, I think if Lance, and I say this repeatedly, if Lance comes to be the player that they drafted him to be at 3 overall, this team has a window of 10 to 15 years to win a Super Bowl.
I think that's
what every Niners fan should be rooting for, because you're talking about the guy he's throwing next to him, Patrick Mahomes. You're talking about Josh Allen. You're talking about all those guys because he has that arm talent. He just hasn't thrown the football in enough games. You looked at Josh Allen, played at Wyoming. Man, he got plenty of reps. You look at Mahomes in college, like over 4,000 yards per season. Like it's just, they had plenty of reps in college to show who they were. Trey Lance is just in that little enigma that is his life. And we just need to see more throws. And I think that he has the potential to be that top tier quarterback. And he just needs to be given the opportunity.
He does have that potential, right? I mean, it was all potential when the Niners drafted him. That was the draw, was immense physical potential, phenomenal makeup when it comes to his intellect, right? Clearly seems to have that it factor when you hear him speak, when you hear the way in which he talks about the team, his teammates, the work that he needs to put into the process to become the individual that we all hope that he can. And I've got to say, like, there are folks who want to pick a side right now. For me, I want both of these guys to be healthy, performing at an amazing level, and to give the 49ers options with what we do at quarterback. The best case scenario is Trey balls out. That is not a problem in my book. I want to bring in a couple of comments here. One,
before you do that, I want to say this.
Yeah, please.
The over-under for wins by Vegas is 11.5, number 1 in the league,
God.
Tied with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. We do not have a slated quarterback. That just shows how deep the Niners are.
Who's starting.
It just shows how deep the Niners are. And
it's true.
And 11.5 is a lot, right? The Niners had 13 wins last season. So it's the level of, or the median of error in that, you could easily see them getting 11 wins next year. You could easily see them getting 14. So it's so crazy how Vegas perceives this team with all this drama going on.
Let me ask you a one-off question here. And for those listening, like, you'll see the ticker running, and this is unrelated. It just came to me because I saw it today. It was Kittle talking about wanting to basically beat the shit out of other teams that come in to play the Niners, right? The Niners being a hugely physical team. With that, with the kind of trash talk and brash nature that you're seeing from some of the players, particularly that quote from Kittle, with Vegas picking the Niners to be, one of the favorite teams to win the Super Bowl, the highest number of wins, the most favorited to win their own division. Do you think these things start to pile up in the side of weighing against the Niners, that other teams now will give us their best punch, or was that already happening?
That's already happening. Like, there's no pro athlete going out there like, oh, we're playing the Bears this week. Let's just give our half-hearted nature. You know why? Because the Bears beat us week 1. So like they go out there from a week-to-week basis. Every player wants to put out their own tape. They all have contracts. They all have family. They all have all this going on. Where I think that, like, a lot of people really love Brock Purdy is the BCB, right? Like, his nickname, the big blank Brock, right? Like, it just, like, he has that going for him. Like, he has that moxie to where he's like, NWO or wrestling, he's doing the cross things over, all kinds of stuff, banging his chest. Like, we just saw Kittle at WrestleMania. Like, you got to believe that showboat type nature of Brock Purdy after he's been feeling it. Like, it reminds you a lot of the greats, right? It reminds you of George Kittle. It reminds of Conor McGregor doing this right after he knocks somebody out. And like, Trey hasn't had the opportunity to show that or be that. And maybe that's in his personality. We don't know. Like, every time he gets a chance to show himself out, he's injured. So like, he hasn't really had that opportunity. And is it a bad thing that going into year 7, Shanahan still has quarterback controversy? Yes, it is. Is it a good thing that even despite of that controversy, we've had more winning seasons, or we've had more NFC championships than any other team, or NFC championship appearances than any other team in the NFC? Yeah, because our team is great. Our team is, and we talked about this. We have a short window. And the quarterback's got to figure this out with this group as it's conspired now. So going back to what you're saying, I really just think that it comes to everybody on this roster realizes how good this team is. Everybody on this roster realizes that we have a short window to make this thing happen, and they want to capitalize just as much as all the fans do.
That's a fact. You do have to capitalize on putting together a special roster like this. You absolutely, you may be able to extend that window to your point of if one of these guys ends up being, if Trey Lance ends up being worthy of the number 3 overall pick, if Purdy comes back healthy from that surgery and looks the way that he did last year, you've got to extend that window. But as of right now, you look at the core of the team and say to yourself, this roster, you have to take advantage of this roster. It's one of those complete teams out there. All right, we're getting to these super chats. Beast Mode Gaming came in to say, hey, he needs to know what predictions we're making today because he's looking to make back that wager that he lost to you before, Randon. So I don't know that we have firm predictions today. There will be a lot of off-season predictions, though. Beast Mode Gaming, you will have every opportunity to make back that money against Randon.
I'll throw this one out right now because I know he's a Giants fan. I'll take under 500 for the Giants this season. You take over 500, and we'll go $20 on that.
That is laying the gauntlet. We shall see if Beast Mode Gaming wants to take that one later on in the show. All right, here we go. Dustin Kohler thanking you. He says, hey, thanks for saying the Bears and not the Lions is a bad team reference, Randon. Dustin, your Lions are no longer that go-to team. No, they are a ferocious defensive juggernaut with a phenomenal coach. I'm loving it.
I'll say this right now. If Aaron Rodgers leaves the North like he's supposed to be, I got Lions winning that division. So
boom. We've bold predictions rolling out. Here we go. Beast Mode Gaming takes that bet. That is a wager. That's legally binding. That's not legally binding. There's no wagering happening here on this show. Not at all.
Gentlemen's agreement.
Gentlemen's agreement. Indeed. We've got Kevin coming in, sneakerhead from Glasgow, saying, looking well, Brother Rob. Seems you've had a few good meals, and it's good to see you filling out those shirts. But yeah, Niner fans are getting the typical quarterback verse nonsense, but Trey, still my guy. I think there are a lot of folks that are still on the Trey bandwagon or on Trey's side. I find myself right down the middle that, again, I want that quality problem of having to decide between a Trey Lance that crushes it all offseason and a healthy Brock Purdy who comes back looking the same way he did prior to the injury last year. To me, that's just a win on both sides of it. And yes, I have, I've put on a little bit since Randon saw me last. I've probably gained a good 10 or 15 pounds of muscle. So, next time we hook up, man, it will be we'll be able to throw down at the game, man. We'll be able to get into a brawl. I know you can handle your own, but I'll throw a punch or two before getting my ass knocked out.
Yeah, I like it, man. Hey, I think it's just typical Irish humor. Yeah, hey, you got a few good meals, meaning like, hey, you're looking a little more svelte. You're looking more tight between the shoulder blades. I think. Hey, Rob, you're looking good, man. Working out a lot. A lot of people don't know. Him and I are both trying to pound the bench there. Get in the gym and put on some LBs of muscle. So good on you, man.
Hit the weights. All right, let's get into Beast Mode Gaming officially accepting you're on. You are on, sir. Just a dude, man. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Trey working with Patrick from Kansas City makes me think he knows this is his opportunity to take the number 1 spot. My opinion. I don't think that's crazy. I mean, he has to see this as his last best shot to reclaim a starting role. And that's not necessarily with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, let's be very real about the fact that this isn't the 1980s. You don't end up with Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Steve Bono on the same roster. Why? Because that's not good roster management in 2023. If you have Steve Young, Joe Montana, and Steve Bono on your roster, you trade at least one of them away and recoup assets. So if we do end up in that situation where it looks like we have 2 starting level quarterbacks, I could see us keeping them for the year. But I think you also have to acknowledge that it's possible the Niners commit to one and decide to trade the other. Who that would be is all over the place. But Trey has to see this opportunity as I could reclaim the spot here in San Francisco, but I could also lay the groundwork for another team swooping in and making a trade for me as well. So this is a huge opportunity for Trey Lance.
I think it's even bigger than that. One, Patrick Mahomes, like you don't see Tom Brady working out with people when he was in his prime. You don't see Aaron Rodgers working out with people. He's in Mexico, sipping ayahuasca. Like you just don't see that kind of stuff. To have the best quarterback in the NFL training or working out with essentially a person who is not a starter at this point, who hasn't been a starter in his career yet, that's a big deal. I think like Mahomes doesn't have to work out with Trey Lance. Mahomes doesn't have to share a trainer, a quarterback coach, or wide receivers, or anybody with Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is there. So the fact that he's there at all is a big deal. Two, it's more a big deal because Trey knows what this year means. Let's get a little of the glass ball of futures here and look at the next season, right? If Trey balls out this year, one, they're picking up his 5th-year option because that has to happen before the next draft, right?
Right.
Two, then you can start negotiating on what an extension may look like, right? If Trey doesn't win the job this year and he gets traded or whatever, he's not getting a 5th-year option. He's just not, which his career looks completely different at that point, right? Because a 5th-year option is, I believe, top 5 in your position. And right now with quarterbacks getting 50, 40, 45, I mean, Trey would be making $38-ish million compared to what he's making this year at 9. Like that's a huge difference. That's a lot of moolah there, Rob. And I think that it's not enough talked about, to be honest with you. I was trying to come up with a swift adjective there, but it's just not. it's not enough talked about because this is his year. This is his year to make a really big deal out of it. Because hey, let's go get into that crystal ball. What if the team goes 13-3 or 13-4 under his helm? We go to the NFC Championship game again, or even just win one playoff game. They're picking up that 5th-year option. Trey is that guy. But if he doesn't do that, like he's not a part of this organization anymore, right? The dead cap is $10 million this year because the fact of all the guaranteed money, but it goes down next year for the team. So like there's more options next year to trade him, all this and that kind of stuff, and for the team to roll out Purdy because they have more years under that rookie contract. This is the year for Trey to dominate and take the bull by the horns and make some money. Because as we've been saying on this podcast for a while, if he does that and gets the 5th-year option and balls out back-to-back seasons, he's making $50+ million a year because the quarterback market at that time will be there. There's no in-between market for the quarterback position.
The quarterback market does not wane. It is constantly on the uptick.
Either you're making quarterback one money or you're a scrub. There's really no in-between besides Jimmy G right now. Like Jimmy G is the anomaly making $25 million. But most people either make nothing or they make top one money. And that's just the way it is. And the fact
that was a one-off for Jimmy G underscores it is the exception that proves your rule.
You look at Daniel Jones, right? Had one good season, and he's getting paid the bank, right? The Giants said no to his 5th-year option, and he got paid. So Trey Lance knows what's going on. Like they get paid that option right on the 5th-year option for the team. He's making top 5 or 10 money. I forget what it is for the position, and then you set yourself up for a good contract. And like, that's more money than he made in his entire career in 1 year for Trey Lance. That's setting up his life. That's setting up his future. And if he scrubs out to be nothing in the NFL after 3 years, he made 36 million and he can retire for the rest of his life. Right. So this is the biggest year for him and his career. And it's not even close.
That is crazy to think. And I don't think that's going to be the reality. I believe Trey Lance is going to have success within the NFL. But it is wild to believe that just being that high of a draft pick, still, even with that rookie wage scale in there, can mean you have life-changing money without ever having panned out in the NFL. Just last 4 years, and you could be good. It's amazing. Chris Royal coming in with the super chat. Appreciate all of you putting in the super chats. Says, don't care who the QB1 is. Win the damn Super Bowl. God, wouldn't that be nice? I tell you, so many things. If we were able to win the Super Bowl, I would be willing to forego so many other things, Randon. That would be the sweetest of victories if it were to happen. But we are a long way away from that. What I will say in finality around this clip is I do see the difference. I know that you were saying looking side by side, you don't notice as big of a difference. I think it's pretty notable personally. My question becomes, will it revert under fire, right? That's always the concern. You adjust your throwing motion in the offseason in a perfect environment. You're in a cushy stadium standing next to Patrick Mahomes, throwing on air, and then you get back out there and there's pressure in your face. Shanahan's calling plays that have you rolling out with defenders out there. Like it changes, and you often see people revert at that point. So that's really what I'll be looking for there, to see if it truly has in fact changed.
And right now, you and I both don't care who's the quarterback. It could be Darnold, it could be Purdy or whatever. We want to win.
Yeah.
But you're looking at it this way. A lot of people love Brock Purdy. But you know who's a top 10 quarterback every single year that he's been in Minnesota? Kirk Cousins, based on the stats. Right?
Yeah.
And because they didn't build a good enough team around him, they don't win. Like, this team is built to win. And the fact that you're getting Kirk Cousins level production for $800K means that your team is better. But when you're paying Brock Purdy $40 million or $33 million or whatever Kirk Cousins is getting paid, your team's going to suffer a little bit because of that. That's 3, 4, 5 players that are starters that you're not paying because you're paying
quality starters. So
everybody here squawking at Brock Purdy or Darnold, whoever, I don't care either. If they win the Super Bowl, Rob, you could be the quarterback. I'd be plenty happy.
Hey,
with that.
Like I said, I'm putting on the muscle.
The combine weight, right?
Probably sing it.
Yeah, take a couple.
This
take
shoulder's
a
little weak. But
get some of those barbells going. But I'm just saying that people are looking at this roster right now and seeing what Purdy put out there and what Lance could be. But realize that we have the cheapest quarterback room in the NFL, or one of.
It's amazing.
And
with potentially 2 starters there.
With potentially 2 starters. So we are in a prime position. But if you think that Brock Purdy is going to be any more than Kirk Cousins when he grows, he just doesn't have the arm talent. He doesn't have the extra stuff that puts him in the top 5. He has the moxie. He has all the other stuff that you got. And he's probably a better winner than Kirk Cousins in prime time. Already shown that. But I'm saying, like, Kirk Cousins has had 6 straight 4,000-yard seasons. He's had 5 out of 6 30-plus touchdown seasons. Like, his stats are there to lead you, and he just doesn't. So there's a possibility that the team still doesn't win. Right now, the team has an opportunity to win because their quarterback room is cheap. And regardless of who is there, whether it's Lance or Brock, I don't care. I know you don't care.
No.
If they hold that Lombardi for the 6th time.
CJ doesn't care either, man. No, those of us that have been suffering through so much pain will just take it. Yes, CJ, bring me the ring. I'm not selling my soul, but I'm coming pretty damn close to it to get that ring. Kevin says, Rob, still traumatized by that speech Mahomes did to fire up his team to win that Super Bowl from us. Will Darnold do that? Nah. Purdy? Yeah. Lance? Question mark. I think Purdy has the intangibles aside from the arm strength. Obviously, Lance, if he puts it all together, feels like the more complete player of the two because of the arm and the legs. All right,
I wouldn't be mad at Darnold either. Everybody laughs at him. To be honest with you, everybody laughs at him. But what was Geno Smith before this year? Nothing.
And Darnold's what, 24?
Like, he's younger than some of the incumbents in this rookie draft. So Hooker, Bennett are both 25, 26. They're older than him. He was a top 3 pick. He has just as much arm talent as anybody else in the NFL. If you look at his highlight reel tape, it's just ridiculous, the throws that he makes. But he's the most inconsistent guy you'll ever meet. Will that change with a head coach that does something different than Adam Gase, who is actual garbage? Possibly.
It's possible.
But I'm not there for. I'm not here. I'm not suiting up. I'm not putting on my jerseys or my socks or my Niners underwear for Sam Darnold. I'm there doing it for Lance, man. I want the complete upside. If for some reason the sky fell and Darnold had to start some games, I'm not worried.
Wait, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, that Randon has his Niners under ruse. I mean, that's critical information for the offseason. I need to get myself a pair. Let's get into this next topic here. We're still going to be talking quarterbacks. We're still going to bring Lance back into this conversation. But now we're talking about Purdy and his recovery. So he spoke last week. So I want to bring in his 2 quotes that came out of the Rock and Minuch show. No, Rock and Minuch with Jimmy B show. What a name that is. The Rock and Minuch with Jimmy B show.
It's a mouthful.
Goodness gracious, that's a mouthful. Anyway, it's a Fox Sports program out there in Phoenix. That's just how they roll in Arizona. And he went on to say, hey, I went in, had the surgery first thing in the morning. The next couple of weeks is all about getting your range of motion. That's where I'm at right now. Everything is healed up from the stitches. I'm just working on my range of motion, and I'll start throwing at 3 months. I just want to pause there. There's a second quote that we'll get into there when he talks about getting it to a certain level. But it is amazing to me after these surgeries, just how quickly doctors now are focused on achieving that range of motion, because it has now been discovered that like once it's lost, it's not really coming back. So I know this is me speaking from personal life experience, having watched my father go through a full knee reconstruction surgery. And in that same clinic, elderly people getting hip replacements, and they stand them up they wake them up from the anesthesia and they're like, time to get out of bed just after replacing your hip. Like, it's wild to me, but it is all about that range of motion. It's all about getting that body part moving as soon as humanly possible. And so this to me lines up with exactly where you want to have Brock Purdy at. It's a critical step. It's not about strength. It's not about throwing, but it is essential to him hitting that path to recovery.
I had a roommate in college, second year in college. It was the sports dormitory. Like, we rented a house. The baseball team and basketball team had players there, and we had 2 guys with Tommy John in that apartment. And every night, just screams or whatever during the recovery. The first couple weeks, it's gonna be painful. Like, they're on a lot of medication. It is a lot of that stretching it out. It's a new tendon in your arm. You're stretching out stitches and all that kind of stuff. And that was 2005. So I'm sure this technology has gotten a lot better, but still, you're stretching out new ligaments where they're not supposed to be in your arm. And it's going to be a lot of pain. It's going to be a lot of, hey, like, I have to put myself through a lot of turmoil to get there. Sorry for my roommate at that time, never got back to throwing 95. He threw 90 minus or minus 90 every single time after that. So it's not always 100%, and it's not always there, and it's a long road back. I mean, we talked about the doctor who said that the angle is different because baseball is different than football. So he'll have an easier road than a lot of baseball players, but it's something to go along here that, I'm rooting for Purdy. If he's there by week 1, I'm rooting for him. But it's a long, painful road, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Inflammation, less than gradatory movement in the elbow, just in normal movements, let alone throwing the football, putting weight on it. You're talking about he would sit there on the couch. We were watching sports, and he's putting a 2.5 pound weight doing this, like, for hours, just getting movement in there. So, like, I just think that right now, everybody asking for Purdy to be a week 1 starter and come in and really set expectations and the roof on fire. You're asking a lot of a kid. You're asking a whole heck of a lot. And if he does that, I'm gonna stand there and I'll golf clap for hours, because
I'll be thrilled,
because that is crazy. And I just think that you're looking at a player who, and let's just roll it back. Look, you're looking at a player who never thought he would amount to anything right away. Right away.
Didn't even think he would get a shot.
Right. You're 3rd on the depth chart for the Niners this season. Right. Yeah. He's probably going into the season like, hey, I just need to show out on the practice squad. I need to, like, make the most of my reps. But to get actual game reps and then go undefeated in the regular season and go all the way to the NFC Championship game and have your entire team behind you saying that, hey, if he was healthy, we would have won. Huge. I mean, the idea of simply being 3rd on the depth chart is one thing, but when you're behind a 3rd round draft pick who the team gave up a lot of assets to get, 3rd overall pick.
Yeah, 3rd overall, 3rd round, 3rd overall, and the quarterback who's behind him that took us to the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, he had to feel like he was pretty buried on that depth chart. And it says a lot about his mentality, the fact that he was ready to go when that came up. And I do think that plays into the recovery process. It doesn't guarantee anything. To your point, anything can go wrong. You can have an infection in the surgery that then requires a second surgery. That could push the timeline back. I saw Eric Schultz in the comments talking about, hey, I don't think he's going to be ready until week 9. My personal stance is that he'll be ready before that. But I'm with you, Randon, that believing he's going to be full go week 1, that feels like a stretch to me. Here's the second part of his quote. Here we are, April. He says, when you get into it after surgery, you're in 90 degrees. And then you can, so he's talking about his bionic arm now. There's that picture of him with that freaking cast on with the dude in the restaurant. He says 90 degrees, and then you can start opening it up to help with your range of motion. All it is to keep your arm safe when you're out walking around and doing therapy. But yeah, out in public, it looks like I have a robotic arm. So it's going to be this process of recovery. It's going to be him getting back to throwing. And hopefully we see steady progression. Hopefully we see those cues, those indicators that it is going as one would hope, and that there's some possibility of a true competition around week 1. When you look at this and the potential for, hey, preseason is going to be about Darnold versus Lance. How do they split the reps? Does Trey get the bulk of that? Is it truly a competition? And then when we start folding in Brock Purdy, when you look at those 3 quarterbacks and the number of snaps that will be available, what is it, Randon, that you're most looking forward to about this quarterback competition? Which of the quarterbacks are you most excited to see what from in that competition?
I don't really think it's a competition at this point. And here's why. I think that the fact that I've already said I want Purdy to be on the PUP list, him be healthy by week 4 or after week 4. We don't know when our bye is yet. The schedule comes out in May. But I want him to be 100% healthy. Rushing him back and trying to make sense out of this makes no sense for Purdy. It really doesn't. Because either Lance is the guy or he's not the guy. Because investment is everything in the NFL, right? So if they invested 3 first-round picks in Lance, if Lance shows out and he goes 4-0 and he has 18 touchdowns and 1 interception, Purdy ain't touching the football. He ain't touching the football, so it doesn't matter. So Purdy should get healthy, because then at that point, worst-case scenario, Lance is a dude, great for the Niners. We have our franchise quarterback. In the trade deadline, the Niners could probably get a first-round pick for Purdy.
Absolutely.
Showing that he's healthy, right?
Absolutely.
To a team that doesn't want to invest and still wants to have his $800,000 contract. So for me, it's they're 2 independent stories. They're 2 independent paths, and they may cross and touch each other. But I just think that Purdy needs to focus on getting healthy, because you ain't going to be quarterback 1 if you're not healthy, and you ain't going to be quarterback 1 if you rush your rehab. And 2, Lance shouldn't be worried about Purdy, because he's going to get every single rep coming into the training camp. Outside of him being absolute garbage and then Shanahan giving Darnold reps, this is the Lance show. Their stories are independent of each other until it's time for them not to be, which I think will be closer to week 4 or week 5 of the season than week 1.
I do agree that there won't truly be that competition between Purdy and Lance. The most fascinating part of this to me will be trying to interpret what the 49ers organization thinks of Trey Lance right now. Because it is just a mystery still, right? He hasn't had enough playing time. Coach Shanahan is always cryptic in the way in which he talks about things. And quite honestly, has said some things this offseason that were not negative towards Trey Lance, but weren't the glowing endorsement that we heard last offseason when the plan was, hey, we're rolling in with Trey. And so the percentage breakdown, when we look at the number of snaps for Lance and the number of snaps for Sam Darnold, I do think will tell us something about how the Niners feel about Trey Lance. Because you're on to something in that if he is the starter week 1 and he gets a few wins underneath his belt, there's no saying that he can't hold on to that going forward, especially if he is performing at any kind of level, as you intimated there. Absolutely, Shanahan is a fan of sticking with the hot hand. No question about it. My question next is, given what we saw from Purdy, without knowing how Lance is going to perform in the offseason, just right now, would you say that it's fair to say it should be Brock Purdy's job to lose as the starter for the San Francisco 49ers? Or do you feel it is wide open?
Yes, I agree with that. And I think I like the analogy that I heard on Locked On 49ers with Peacock and Croc.
Nice.
And they said that he's the leader in the clubhouse. And if anybody plays golf or watches golf, the Masters are going on right now. If you're one of the early risers and you start the tee time at 6 o'clock, if you're the leader on the scoreboard at noon, you got 5, 6, 7 hours left of people playing golf to where you may not be the leader. So right now, Brock Purdy is the leader and well-deserved. And I think he's the leader by a wide margin. I think that it's not even close right now. But that is based on him being healthy. He's not healthy. So I think you're looking at, hey, I think the Purdy would have a no doubt starting opportunity if Trey Lance is garbage during preseason. Sam Darnold shows you nothing impressive, and then Shanahan's like, oh, I got to win games. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Lance is going to be good. I think Darnold's going to be better than people think he is, and I think they're going to be able to put Purdy on the pup. Going forward, it's going to be impressive. I think you're looking at more controversy the second half of the season. And here's why. Because Lance is most likely going to miss 1 or 2 games. Because he's going to get run into the pile. He's going to hurt his finger or do something. And the backup's going to get an opportunity. And Purdy's shown that he can come in on a moment's notice and dominate. So I think that you're more likely looking at controversy weeks 12 through 18 versus the start of the season just because of the injury the way it is. What do you think?
I mean, I absolutely think it should be Purdy's job to lose, but I like what you're saying. The golf analogy is so apropos here. It really does fit because as of right now, yes, based on what we have seen from both quarterbacks, Brock Purdy should be the incumbent starter, assuming that he's healthy. He's not healthy right now. Trey will be when we get into camp. And so you have to take in that new information and reevaluate what your position, what your stance on it is. And so I think that it is too early to declare, but it is fair to say that the leader right now is Brock Purdy. And I would say it's by a fairly wide margin because of those results. And it absolutely can change in between now and then. By the way, saying, hey, Dustin is trolling. Dustin is just a simple Lions fan here and also a good friend of the program. Dustin is always welcome to troll, especially with funny lines about Jimmy Garoppolo.
But let's talk about this. I think it's funny because of Jimmy Garoppolo and his quarterback of his team, Jared Goff, right? Rams got rid of him for somebody better. Niners getting rid of him for somebody supposedly they thought was better. We don't know what Lance is yet.
Right.
But look at Goff last season, thrown for over 4,000 yards, was there on week 18, ready to go to try to win. And they would have made it to the playoffs if the dumb Seahawks didn't actually win their football game. Like they were right there, right? And I'm picking the Lions to win this division next year. Like Jared Goff, as much as crap as he got on the Rams, especially from a lot of Niners fans, he's been to multiple Pro Bowls, been to a Super Bowl. Threw for over 4,000 yards last season. I think he had 35 touchdowns, maybe. But you're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Williams from Alabama coming in after having an ACL recovery last season. This team's going to be good, and I'm here for it.
Here for it. All right, let's cruise through. By the way, this is a double header. So Rand and I are wrapping up here at the end of the hour, but then we are headed over to Jack Hammer's station to get on there on a roundtable that is going on with Jack Hammer and some other folks over there. So anyone that wants to continue talking Niners, you are welcome to do that. Do me that favor, smash that like button here to amplify our signal as well. But let's talk about the kicker that we brought in. So we added a kicker, Zane Gonzalez. This is old news for those listening. Obviously, this happened last week, but Rand and I want to cover it here. It was a conditional swap of late round picks in 2025. Zane missed all of the 2022 season with a groin injury, but in 2021 was highly efficient. 20 of 22 for field goals, 22 of 23 for extra points. Got a big leg, capable of kicking it into the end zone on kickoffs. Over a 6-year career, solid numbers, field goal percentage, 80.5% made field goals. That is in comparison to Robbie Gould in his time with the Niners, who was at 87.5%. So a drop off, a 7% drop off from Robbie Gould in accuracy for field goals. But he was 94.8% on extra points. So very solid there. The key here in that trade is he only counts $1.465 million against the Niners cap versus what we paid Gold last season, which was $5.5 million. I think it's fair to say Gold might have taken a little less if he was willing to come back to the Niners at all. I mean, you could interpret his offseason comments to mean that he wants to be back closer to Chicago, closer to his family, and wasn't willing to negotiate. But it rang fairly similar to what he said before his last contract with the Niners. So I'm guessing they could have gotten a deal done. But I would think it would have had to have been $4.5 million, somewhere in that range, a slight drop from his last contract. I like this strategy, and I think it leaves the Niners open to potentially drafting someone. And I know you've been hitting that nail on the head for a while now.
Yeah, you know me all too well. I'm all about value, and I think that the Niners need to get some value out of this. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go and take a leak or go get some more dip when Robbie Gould sets up for a field goal, because it's usually automatic. But hey, it happens now, and a lot of people are on the Moody train, and he's by most accounts not even the top kicker available. So he might be available in the 7th round. I know he hit one blast of a kick and one kicker of the year this year, but you have other players. I think my guy right now is out of Syracuse, Andre Schmidt. He won the award freshman year, and he's honorable mention this year. 88% in his career. He's hit multiple 50-yarders. His extra point percentage was 100% in 2022. So he's not missing the short stuff. So I think he could easily be a 6th or 7th round pick. And what I'm saying is, when you're swapping 2025 5th rounders, there's no investment in Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You're going to. Yeah, you can cut him. So you can go out, and I'm sure that swap is predicated on him making the team as well. So it might not even cost you anything. Right?
Exactly. So, it is conditional.
So I'm saying, hey, go out there, draft a guy, whether it's Schmidt in the 6th or 7th round, because we got plenty of picks, or maybe you go for a late round pickup in Christopher Dunn, NC State, right? New entry. He's was from NC State. He's been bright in this thing, but he scored 455 points for the Wolfpack this year. Through week 10 of the season, and that's not even the whole season. So he's comfortably and easily the highest scoring player in NC State history. So I mean, 83% career percentage in field goals, and he's 100% on both field goals and extra points during the latter half of the season, and he's kicked multiple 50-yarders. So a guy that has got a little bit injured towards the second half of the season. I think you're looking at a team that should invest in kicker in the draft, whether it's signing multiple undrafted or going for a 6th or 7th round pick and make it an actual competition out of camp. And I'm here for it. We need to get, Jack, we're going on with Jack Hammer. He's got the access. We need to put him right there in front of the kicker zone the entire time and let us know what's going on.
We need kicker competition. To hell with the quarterback competition. Give me kicker competition updates. I'm with you on drafting someone. I'm with Stovey 4x4ing here in the big leg of Moody, and the Michigan Harbaugh connection has me. I like that one. I'd be cool with drafting a kicker as early as the 5th round. I know teams have gotten real gun shy about drafting kickers after that one kid in the 2nd round that got drafted there by Tampa Bay and was just a bust. It's been a while since anyone has overpaid for a kicker. I hope that's not this season. There are some quality options. I think that competition would be huge.
It's not in our favor. The stats are not in our favor there. Any kicker drafted before the 5th round, there's only been one kicker that stayed with his team for a second contract. So it's not an easy position, and there's a lot of people that get picked up. So that's what I'm saying. Doesn't even need to be a 5th rounder. It could be a stab here and there, but chances are, it's like chances are none of these guys are going to be on our team in 4 years. Like, it's going to probably be somebody else. That's how good Robbie Gould is that's how consistent he is. So
Robbie Gould.
I'm all for a competition.
I got to bring in this comment because I like it. Kevin says, hey, I can't hear Jimmy G's name without hearing bounce chicka wow wow in Vegas. Vegas Strip might just need to invest in more $1 bills to throw around. I love the ranch, whatever ranch that was. It was like, yeah, free access for you, Jimmy G, for life. The man is beloved in Las Vegas. All right, we are going back and looking back at the position group here. We are looking at the running back room for the San Francisco 49ers. That's how we're closing out this show before we head over to talk with Jack Hammer and his crew over on that channel. Again, for anyone paying attention now, we are doing a back-to-back. You have Between Two Beards right now, then we're going over to Jack's channel to keep the conversation going with a roundtable. So obviously the running back room was comprised after the midseason trade of Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, and Tyrion Davis-Price, with Kyle Juszczyk rounding it out for good measure. I mean, I look at that and I am thrilled with it. My only critique that I didn't have last offseason or mid-season, I should say, once we had Christian McCaffrey, is I do start to wonder about the durability of Elijah Mitchell. You have to worry that that's a continual issue that has reared its ugly head with regard to injury for him. I believe that we should continue to see a progression for Jordan Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price, but certainly with Tyrion Davis-Price, not sure that I saw enough there to say that he's a lock going forward. What was your stance on that room as a whole, and what do you view the Niners doing to address that position group, if anything, this year?
I think that room was a solid B before Christian McCaffrey got there, and then when Christian McCaffrey's an all-pro. So he elevated that room. The reason the B is Elijah Mitchell can't stay healthy.
Right.
So, and we didn't see enough from TDP, which he's been on Instagram as well, showing that he's been working out, lifting, squatting, getting all the agility. He's not taking this offseason lightly. So you got to love that. I mean, not everybody takes their craft seriously, and everybody's like, oh, it's just Instagram clips. Well, you know, he's made $1 million+ already, and he's guaranteed to make $1 million+ more. Like, he could just sit on his laurels and retire, right? So the fact that he's getting out there and saying, hey, like, I have Chris McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell in front of me, and I'm still working hard. Gotta love that from TDP. Jordan Mason undrafted. You know me, like, everybody loves a good story, but there's plenty of running backs out there that can come in and make a splash here. I think last year there was over 30 or 40 people that had over 1,000 yards in the NCAA. So
that's wild.
For the room as a whole for the entire season, I would say it's probably a B+, because the fact that the first and second half are completely different. Obviously the Chris McCaffrey is the bona fide wild card for that group.
You have to wonder if at some point the devaluation of the running back position within the NFL catches up to the college ranks to right? Because it takes whatever it is, 18 years for trends to catch up, because these kids that are starting out just being born, right? They decide early on, I want to be this position. I'm great at this position. And when they're early in their careers, probably aren't thinking about, hey, where's the money at here? But at some point, these kids who have a real shot of making it to the NFL have to consider, like, hey, if I could be a running back or a wide receiver, which do I want to be? It's so crazy to me that you still have so many talented running backs coming out of college, even though they're not getting paid at the NFL level at the amount that they deserve for their contributions to the game, and their careers are so short-lived. It feels like only a matter of time before that catches up. But the Niners need to take advantage of the fact that it hasn't caught up to the league yet. To your point, there's just a slew of players that the Niners seem very adept at evaluating that could be plugged into this system and have success. And that's not taking away from anyone that's on the Niners roster. Again, going back to our scouting department, Bobby Turner, the thorough nature that he does in evaluating running backs, it shows. I mean, that is absolutely what goes into this process for the Niners. And Shanahan's system, going back to his father, has been adept at producing 1,000-yard running backs, in particular ones that seem to come out of nowhere, that don't have that same pedigree. So I could see this as the Niners taking some late-round flyers here. I do believe that we break the trend of the third-round running back getting selected here, but I think that there will absolutely be a 6th-rounder or 7th-rounder, maybe an undrafted free agent that they bring in.
So here's where I'm going at here, and here's where I'm going to stay with the 3rd-round running back pick. And I don't advertise this. I don't want them to do this. But if they do, a guy that's going to fall in this draft is a local guy for me out of TCU. His name is Kendre Miller. Injured at the end of the season. He's able to catch and run. He's good with his hands. He's able to make people miss. He's 5'11", 215. The biggest thing about him is that Zach Evans was the #1 recruit that TCU ever had, and it's in history of its time out of high school. He beat out that recruit and started for this team, who went to the national championship, and he got injured in the last part of the season. So he's probably going around pick 121, so maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. It would be a luxury pick rather than a need for sure. But he's a guy that could be dangerous. Over 20 touchdowns in college, and that's one of the most predictable stats from the NCAA to the NFL is how well are they able to sniff the end zone? How well are they able to use their talents to get to the end zone? So I think that you're looking at a guy who Elijah Mitchell's got 2 years left, right? And obviously he's been injured. So like as much as they love him and what he does, like he's not anything that they have to hold on to. Most likely they're going to have to restructure McCaffrey's at some point. The fact that they didn't do it this year signals that they probably realize that has the potential to fall off a cliff because of his injury situation. So I wouldn't be mad if they went running back. As far as in the third round, I think it'd be very much agitating for most fans, including me. So like I'm not up for reaching up for Kendre Miller. But like I said, he's average going around the 121 picks. So you're looking at the end of the fourth round. Maybe they move up with a lot of their fifth and sixth round picks to move up in the fifth round and get him, or he falls into the fifth round and they're able to take him. But I think he's a pure three down running back that got injured late in the season, and he would be going higher. If he dominated in the national championship game, you probably could be looking at him in the second or third round.
And the Niners have shown that they're not afraid to take those occasional swings on guys that are coming off of injury, regardless of the track record of success or lack of success that they and the previous regime for the 49ers may have had in targeting them. I was talking with my trainer today about Marcus Lattimore. He was like, man, you remember Marcus Lattimore? I was like, yes, I distinctly remember Marcus Lattimore. I thought that was a phenomenal pick by the Niners. It just didn't turn out. But when those late injuries and the value you get associated with taking someone who's had a late injury pan out, especially for a team that's already stacked, that has so many draft picks as the Niners do this year, those are the types of moves that can take you over the top. Now, it is a risk. It obviously comes with some downside there, but I like the idea of taking the swing, because I do think that, hey, you're looking at a situation where you have to continue to replenish that. The Niners have shown that, hey, even if you start the season with a healthy backfield, you're probably not making it through the entirety of it. And again, the Niners have shown an ability to find gems. I have more faith if they select them in the fifth round or later than I do if they take them in the fourth or earlier. So my hope,
plenty of those guys too. So let's go. So this one was from Brad of SF Niners talking about fullback from NDSU, which we have plenty of ties there. Hunter Lupek, fullback, right? I think,
fullback,
as much as people don't like me saying this, I think that Kyle Juszczyk is the most overplayed player on the Niners.
Overpaid? That is sacrilegious.
Paying fullback $8 million is or I think it's $6 to $8 million still is way overpaying a guy that you barely use.
It's probably like 4 times more than the next highest paid fullback,
if not more. He's 6'1", 230. He can catch the ball over the shoulder. He can block. He has flexibility. I think the fact that they could use him, they're not going to cut. They're not going to cut Juszczyk, but
no,
he's going around pick 218. So if he falls into the undrafted category, I could see them making a bid and putting him on the practice squad. Yeah. But the running back that I really like is out of Louisville. It's Tyrone Evans, 5'10", 225, just great with the hands, natural pass catcher, swing passes. And you're looking at a team that went from bottom 5 in the league and passing the running back to top 5 with Christian McCaffrey. If he gets injured, which he most likely will, because last season was an anomaly, you need a guy that can catch out of the backfield. None of our running backs that are on the roster can with natural ability. I think Tyrone Evans, he's plagued to go anywhere between pick 200 to 265. So you might be able to get him undrafted as well, if not with a 7th round pick. He's a great pass catcher with size. And I like him as a person to bring into camp and battle for the roster spot.
I think that's a fair assessment that the Niners do need that behind Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, you certainly get a significant drop off, which is why you saw such an uptick for the Niners when they brought in Christian McCaffrey. And I think you're right on in calling out the need to begin bringing in fullbacks, right? This is when you've got to carry him on your practice squad. You have to make sure you have that replacement for Juice, because I disagree. I don't think he's vastly overpaid. I think he's slightly overpaid. And I think he is so unique in what he brings to the 49ers that when he's no longer on the team, it will be a huge loss. So getting in
he's
now,
unique because there's 3 fullbacks in the entire league. That's why he's unique.
But he's unique as an athlete overall. Like I would compare him to most of the tight ends in the league and say he's as athletic, if not more so than most of them. Like if I look at his athleticism next to, someone, a tight end that's getting paid $8 million, now I'm like, okay, it's worth it. Your point of not using him enough is a fair one though. All right. We have passed the 7 o'clock hour. We need to get over to Jack's channel to talk 49ers in a roundtable format. Dustin coming in. He says, say it, Rob. Go blue. Go blue, Dustin. Let's do it. I've got no college allegiance. I am with you on that. All right. We are wrapping it up here. This was a phenomenal show. Love going through the conversation. Love the positivity that clip brought in. People enjoy the show. On your way out, when you're coming over to watch us on Jack's channel, do us that favor and hit the like button on your way out. Randon's information is down below. Go subscribe and follow as well. Get Hockey Royalty up there, whether you watch hockey or not. Randon,
we will be having scouts on.
Sir.
We will be having scouts on in this offseason, and I'll make sure they talk about some Sharks draft picks as well. So tune in for the offseason get up.
Wonderful. We are headed over to Jack's channel. We will see you over there. Until then, you know the drill. Cheers, faithful.